So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Massachusetts Pavilion. I hope that you are having, as we say, a good bio. My name is Sue Wyndham-Bannister, and I'm the President and CEO of the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center. The Mass Life Sciences Center is the hub of our state's life sciences cluster, and we have the great privilege of administering a 10-year, $1 billion initiative by the state of Massachusetts to invest in this life sciences cluster. Over the next day, as we have for this day and a half, we're going to be celebrating here at the BIO meetings some of the really tremendous advances that we have made globally in so many areas of the life sciences. I think at the same time, though, we all try to remain mindful of the areas where significant breakthroughs continue to elude us, and the patients who are still counting on us to make those breakthroughs. Nearly 3 years ago, some of the world's leading biotech and pharmaceutical companies met in Boston to discuss this gap between patient need and the pace of innovation in neuroscience research and development. I think we all were agreed that CNS is an especially challenging area in which to work. And it's been an especially challenging area to get to real significant breakthroughs. And over the course of this discussion in Boston, a challenge was posed. Is industry ready? Is it willing to consider a bold new type of collaboration where companies might seek to accomplish collectively what's been very difficult to achieve alone? Were there any companies out there who would step outside of their comfort zone and push beyond doing business as usual? The members of this panel represent several of 7 companies that stepped up to that challenge and joined together with the Life Sciences Center to create the Massachusetts Neuroscience Consortium. There are a number of attributes about this consortium that we feel are unique, although later in the discussion we're going to really ask the panelists to tell you more about that. But very quickly, the goal is to give the panel, the consortium members, expedited access to top talent in Massachusetts, across our neuroscience community, to engage in shared projects that will be short-term and results-oriented, to have projects that are going to follow commonly accepted industry standards as identified by the sponsors, to have the members of the consortium work collaboratively, not just with one another, but with the principal investigators and the teams that are leading the projects that they choose to fund. Interestingly, happily, the sponsors have agreed that they're going to contribute their tools, their knowledge, and other resources to expedite the work that is being done. And similarly, the results are going to be shared across all of the members of the consortium and the academic investigators who work with us. Today, I look forward to discussing with these panelists some updates on their activities in neuroscience research and their perspectives on the Massachusetts Neuroscience Consortium. So let me introduce them very quickly to you, and then we'll start with our questions. The first is Dr. Steve Arkenstall, who is Senior Vice President and Head of U.S. Research and Global External Innovation at EMD Serono. Dr. Arkenstall brings very strong expertise in diverse areas of disease biology and drug discovery technologies to his role at EMD Serono. He began his career with the company in 1998 in Geneva. He moved to Boston in 1999. And following the formation of EMD Serono in 2007, he took over as the global head of technologies, partnering with the company's therapeutic area disease functions to underpin new chemistry and biologic-based drug discovery, as well as manage the company's U.S. research operations that are based in Massachusetts. And in 2009, Dr. Arkenstall also assumed responsibilities for supporting discovery and development of small molecule oral drugs within the global R&D organization. So it's really a pleasure to have him with us on the panel. Secondly is Dr. William Kohlbrenner, who's the Director of Global External Research and the head of the scientific scouting team for the Global Pharmaceutical Discovery and Development Group at AbbVie. Dr. Kohlbrenner is currently very involved with the team and leads a team that play a key role in scouting for new drug targets and disease pathways, looking for early-stage therapeutic opportunities, enabling technologies, and external experts that can augment AbbVie's preclinical drug pipeline. Of course, it's great to be here in Chicagoland with AbbVie. In addition to working with universities, research institutes, and biotechs worldwide, the group that Dr. Kohlbrenner leads has established multiple drug discovery programs at top CROs in Europe and in Asia. And the third member of our team is Dr. Kenneth Kohlblend, who's the VP of Pharmacology and Translational Medicine at Sunovion Pharmaceuticals. For those of you who don't know Synovion Pharmaceuticals, Inc., they are based in Massachusetts, and they are the representative in Massachusetts of Dainippon Sumitomo Pharmaceutical. Dr. Kohlblend has his BS in Biology and Chemical Engineering from MIT. He has a doctorate from Johns Hopkins University. He worked for 18 years at Merck Research Labs as the Vice President of Neuroscience Discovery Worldwide. He was at Alnylam Pharmaceuticals for several years as the CSO, Chief Scientific Officer. And at Synovion, he is the Vice President for TMED Translational Medicine and Early Development. So we are really pleased, very proud to have members of the consortium of this tremendous talent and caliber, and I look forward to hearing their perspectives. Let me start, if I may, with an initial question. Would love to hear from each of you about the importance of neuroscience research in each of your companies right now, and why you've chosen to have a significant presence in Massachusetts, why you have felt that that's been an important location for the work of your company to take place. And Steve, may I ask you to start us off?
Should I start?
Please, we'll and come this way.
Okay, so maybe I'll just start though with can everyone hear me okay out there? So I'll start with just a quick introduction to the company. EMD Serono, or Merck Serono as we're known outside of the US. We're a mid-sized biopharmaceutical company. We have sales in the order of $8 billion. And we invest something like $1.3 billion in R&D. Now, in terms of neurosciences, one of our flagship products is Rebif, and which is one of the leading drugs that is sold today for multiple sclerosis. And it represents today something like 25 or a little bit over 25% of our sales. Now, you can imagine with that neuroscience is an important pillar as part of our R&D activities. And in terms of our focus, we have in-house projects today in the multiple sclerosis area, and we're focused on developing those. But we're also interested in other neurodegenerative diseases, including, for example, ALS or myasthenia gravis and that kind of degenerative disease. Looking ahead, our R&D activities in neurosciences is going to be ramping up our activities in the external environment. In fact, we're going to be ramping up our focus on accessing external innovation. So the external environment is very, very important to us. And while we've done some of that in the past, for example, we've done a multi-million-dollar, we support the the MS Society through Fast Forward in terms of a multi-million-dollar deal to support research in the MS area, transitioning research from the lab or small biotech companies to the clinic. We feel we can do a lot more. And we think that the Neuroscience Consortium, that we're very proud to be founder members, gives us a great opportunity to be part of yet more basic research and also leverage the great neuroscience that we have in Massachusetts. So in terms of Massachusetts, I think it's true to say for our company that the richness of the neuroscience environment has had a massive impact on the way that we organize R&D within our company. So when we think of the institutions and the scientists in Massachusetts, In fact, we did some analysis a few years ago, we were trying to get a measure of the quality of neuroscience research in Massachusetts. So we took impact value in top-tier neuroscience journals. And the analysis we did showed us that 40%, that's 40, of the high-impact neuroscience papers which were appearing globally came from the northeast of the US, and a high proportion of those came from Massachusetts-based institutes. So, you can see there that that's a reflection of the great research that's done in Massachusetts. And as I say, Massachusetts had an impact on how we organize ourselves globally within R&D. So if you think back 6 years within our global R&D organization, our neuroscience research and early development was located between Italy and Switzerland. We didn't have anything in the US at all. And then, driven by our interest in Massachusetts, in 2008 we moved the Italian activities to Massachusetts. And then, as of last year, we made a decision also to move the Swiss R&D activities from Switzerland to our R&D hub in Billerica, Massachusetts. And as of 2014, we will have 100% of our neuroscience research and early development activities based in Massachusetts in Billerica. Again, a major transition for us, and driven by the expertise that we feel we have in the Massachusetts area.
So we extend our apologies to the Italians and our colleagues in Switzerland. Steve, we will be in touch to get some of that research. It's very fascinating. Thank you. So Ken, may I ask if you'll talk a little bit next?
Yeah, so thank you very much, and good afternoon. Just a little bit about Synovion. So Synovion is the U.S. arm of Nippon Sumitomo Pharma. In contrast to Steve's organization, we actually have a very large presence of neuroscience research in Osaka, Japan. About 75% of our research in our basic labs, as far as the preclinical work is concerned, is conducted in Osaka. The Nippon Sumitomo family of companies and the Nippon Sumitomo Pharma company itself actually reaches back to a number of academic consortia and academic work that is ongoing in Japan. They've now transferred that model with the acquisition of Separacore, and Boston and the Boston community was an obvious choice in terms of where we actually go and prosecute all of our future discovery. The early translational medicine work with respect to all the PET, fMRI, translational medicine and experimental medicine models is all conducted out of our Boston facilities. We actually have a very unique position in that the company over the past 5 years has actually had responsibility for registering or is in the process of registering 3 major neuroscience products. Lunesta, those of you that are familiar with the lunar moths that go on land, one of the leading sleep agents in the industry. Lorazepam, an atypical antipsychotic, which is currently under review for bipolar depression as well. And we have another epilepsy drug, which is Stadessa, which is currently under review. So when you actually look at the track record of late clinical development in phase 3 execution, it's really harvesting and taking that foundation of work now in clinical trial registration studies and now back translating it. The DSP group believes that the future of neuroscience research will actually rely on innovation. And the innovation cluster in the US and specifically in the Boston arena, whether it be thinking about how induced pluripotent stem cells in collaboration with the Harvard Stem Cell Institute, when you think about the genetic research and molecular profiling that's being conducted at the Broad Institute through the Stanley Foundation at MIT, we believe that it's the genetics and stem cell initiatives that will actually help to cure major neurodegenerative disorders as well as neuropsychiatric disorders. And it's really, we think that it will be in those model systems, maybe not just through CNS delivery of iPS cells, but even in cell-machine interfaces and technologies which are really being developed in the academic institutions. And so that's why Mass Life Sciences and MassBio is really so critical as we think about those innovation cycles and those innovators that are leading that interface in material sciences, biocomputing, and molecular sciences moving forward.
Thank you, and thanks for the kind words about the role that we play at MassBio and the Life Sciences Center. And let me please ask Bill, if you would like to share a perspective on what's going on at AbbVie.
Thank you for the opportunity to participate in the panel today. I should mention that AbbVie is a very new company with a very significant heritage. As of January 1st, Abbott established an independent biopharmaceutical company named AbbVie with its proprietary pharma business. So we're very excited about that and the future and addressing the challenges and taking advantage of the opportunities. Now, as Abbott, we've been very active in licensing clinical stage assets. As AbbVie, we're still going to be doing the same thing, but we're also significantly sharpening our focus on external engagement and the very early stages of the pipeline. And that means more academic collaborations, consortia, in licensing. And my group is involved in that early space in identifying these opportunities. As Abbott, we have been focused in the neuroscience pain area for quite some time with a number of long-term research programs. As AbbVie, we're still focused in neuroscience and pain, but we've committed significantly more resources on identifying and validating targets in all of our disease areas, but in particular the neuroscience pain. Our group works closely with the neuroscience team, the technical team there. We're well aware of the high risks in this area related to target validation, failure in the clinic, and also the really critical need for new approaches to address these serious diseases and pain. We have been very attracted to the concept that's advanced as the Massachusetts Neuroscience Consortium, and our group, as you mentioned, has been involved in the planning stages. What attracted us to this is the high concentration of top-tier academic investigators in Massachusetts, the critical mass of companies in the Cambridge area available to participate in the consortium, and that's not too far of a drive from us, or for us from Worcester to participate. And importantly, and this is being involved in establishing external collaborations and participating externally. The important part of this is that the initiative came with a catalyst or an enabler, and that's the Life Science Center. I think that it's been critical to have that element, that group, be available to navigate through the issues and the conversations involved in establishing a pre-competitive consortium. So we're very excited about where it's headed, and also where things are getting off the ground with proposals and so on. And we're excited about what we've seen so far.
Bill, let me build on a couple of points that you were making, and I'm just going to ask different panelists if you would address this. You began to talk about some of the challenges. So you are 3 of 7 of the largest companies in the world that are strategically focused in this space. What are some of the challenges in doing work in the neuroscience field, and why is it that you believed that being part of a consortium was a way to begin to address them? What were these pain points, if you will, and why do you see a consortium as a possible solution to that? And again, please, any of you who would like to go first, feel free to start.
I go.
Yep, please.
Yeah, so I think we, as biopharmaceutical companies, we're faced with many challenges in many arenas, but I think the increased cost of R&D and the increased failures that we're having in the pipeline are two which are near the top for me. And if you think about the reason for failures of molecules in the pipeline, it's basically efficacy, the inability to show a beneficial effect in patients is one of the major reasons for failure of drugs in development. And unfortunately, that happens fairly late in development. So for example, in phase 2, something like 50% of drug failures reflect a lack of efficacy. And in phase 3, it's as much as 2/3 of drugs fail because they don't show efficacy. As I say, that's a very late stage, and it's a very expensive stage to be failing. So why are drugs failing because of lack of efficacy? Well, I mean, I think there are a number of reasons, but one of those that is near the top is the dire shortage of validated drug targets to develop new R&D programs against. And I think that's particularly true in the neuroscience area. And I think one of the reasons that we're so excited about the Neuroscience Consortium is that the mission of the Neuroscience Consortium goes to the very heart of this major challenge that we're facing as a biopharmaceutical industry, and that is the shortage of drug targets and pathways which are validated. And that's one of the reasons that we're very excited to be part of it.
I mean, for us, it's not just around the collaboration, but I think it's also around non-traditional collaborations. So thinking about an asymmetric knowledge base that no one company in and of itself will be able to acquire. I mean, when you think about, we've known about the tau pathways and A-beta pathways in Alzheimer's disease for better part of 2 decades now, and yet some of the first drugs that are actually studied there actually make patients worse. So there's clearly learnings that we as an industry must have if we're going to deliver value for our patients and our payers. And so for us, it's about non-traditional sharing of information, and it's also about trying to solve really hard problems, right? I mean, the ability to use a DSM manual to try and go and identify a patient segment as far as registration studies are concerned, it's very challenging. The inaccessibility of the brain and just being able to measure changes that are going on during the course of a 3-month, 6-month, 2-year study that the agency is going to require us to do, it's going to require a bunch of us together, and not just industry, but governments and patient advocacy groups. And then the other final point that I just make is I think that we need to also consider what we can learn from the rare genetic disorders. I think that the Shires and the Genzymes of the world teach us that. And in the neuroscience space, it's another place where we're very focused.
Similar themes certainly resonate at AbbVie, where we see an important critical need to identify and validate the new targets. That's really critical for many of these diseases, understanding disease biology, different pathways. And importantly, and I think this will come out of the consortium, the need to develop more predictive models so we can de-risk these targets earlier than the clinical, and that really is an important goal for us. Being in the pre-competitive space, we're very comfortable with that. I think that will certainly lead to faster advances in understanding the target biology, the disease biology. And as a consortium with multiple companies participating, we also have access to a much broader array of research than if we were funding it all ourselves or trying to do it all ourselves. So in many ways, the pre-competitive aspect of this, the broad participation by industry and academia, makes a lot of sense and will likely enable faster identification of novel therapeutic approaches.
I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for questions, but I'd like to ask one more, if I may. What are your perspectives? There are certainly consortia that involve sponsors working with academia. What do you see as an important differentiator about the way that you anticipate working with academia in this consortium that is different from the way in which industry and academia would normally work together under existing consortium models? And maybe I'll ask, we'll start from this end and go down. Thanks.
One aspect of that with the Neuroscience Consortium that maybe distinguishes it from others is we'll have an opportunity as proposals are developed and refined. We'll have an opportunity to interact with investigators and work with them to define research plans and objectives and so on that aligns both with their interests and our interests as well. So in other words, there's certain aspects of fundamental biology that are highly relevant to drug discovery, and if we can make sure those are captured in the research plans, I think that offers significantly more potential for impactful information and biology.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's also around, it's a shared mission with respect to the level of trust. So whether it be the targets, whether it be some of the people that you're trying to recruit, whether it be some asymmetric knowledge, hey, we have an idea on a stem cell initiative that we're working on in Japan that an investigator submitted a proposal on. Nobody else in the consortium had any interest in it, but it has very specific interest for us around ophthalmics and corneal transplants. And so it's once again trying to have some interaction and cross-fertilization.
So I would just add a couple of things. I mean, I think when you think of the mission of the consortium and really the way we want to direct the projects, and that is towards validating new targets in terms of diseases in the neurosciences, I think that the consortium is in many ways a model for the way that research, I think, has to continue in the future. I think many biopharmaceutical companies are realizing that the task of understanding disease biology and the task of identifying new targets for drug discovery programs is too big. It's too big for even the largest pharmaceutical companies, and we're going to have to get together. We're going to have to get together and engage more and more and more in pre-competitive type research. And I think for me, that is what the consortium models. And for me, I'm pretty excited about being part of 6 other companies, as being part of the design of these programs, and also the fact that we are going to be sharing in the discussions, sharing in the data, sharing in the information that's generated. And it's going to be a real collaboration between companies and a real collaboration between this real richness of neuroscience centers that we have in Massachusetts. So it's as I say, a model for the future.
I'm going to open it up for questions. I will say very quickly, in case you're curious, the other members of the consortium who are not represented here today. So again, you've heard Abbott or AbbVie, AMD, Serono, Biogen, IDEC, Janssen, Merck, Pfizer, Synovion. Did I miss anyone? Did I get everyone? I got everyone.
A lot of the, and actually, Steve, to your point, a lot of the comments sound very reminiscent of what oncology research sounded like a while ago. Do you think there's anything qualitatively different about neuroscience research and the challenges in drug discovery from oncology?
Do you want to take that, or shall I? Do you want me to?
He was asking you. I'll let
yeah,
you
one of the things that I think in many ways oncology research and oncology drug development, at least for me, has been sort of modeling, I think, the way that drug discovery and development programs are going to follow in other disease areas. So I think one of the advantages that we've had in oncology is we've got a little bit more of an understanding of what goes wrong with somatic mutations in cancer cells. We know that certain pathways are activated following mutations in certain oncogenes. And following on from that, we're very lucky in cancer. Well, we're more fortunate in oncology from a drug discovery perspective than some other disease areas, that some of the components that mediate oncogene action are tractable from a drug discovery program. I think in the neuroscience areas, that's what we're lacking. We're lacking tractable drug targets in many of these important neurological diseases. But I personally believe that this kind of research, when you're marrying a focus on target validation together with human disease, understanding, you mentioned human genetics, but understanding human genetics, the human pathophysiology, and how this is linked to the activation of a pathway and involvement of a target. This is also fundamental towards leading us towards a position where we can start to also think of stratified medicine and targeted therapies in neurosciences. So again, following on from oncology. So in other words, getting the right drug for the right patient, improving the probability of success of our clinical trials, and of course bringing more benefit to the patients overall.
I mean, for the one thing that I would distinguish is of course the fluid-based markers and your ability to actually look at response as far as onc is concerned, or even some of the retroviral or antiviral types of therapies. You know, being able to follow the depression, right, endpoints in a person now. I mean, just as far as the weather is concerned, I mean, there's a heck of a lot of depressed people in Boston right now. It has nothing to do with even the weather. I mean, the Red Sox are even winning and they're not, and people are depressed. But I guess, so the inaccessibility of the brain, so being able to measure target occupancy, and then having stable measures. If you think about the disorders as far as medicine is concerned, and where we can actually go and track a objective measure versus a subjective interview with a psychiatrist across the desk or with a caregiver. You know, mom had a hard time, you know, with her activities of daily living yesterday. I mean, that to me speaks about the validation, not just with respect to the targets themselves, but then even the interface in terms of the pathophysiology of the disease and why it's so tough, and why it's going to take some different thinking and some different approaches. I love where you're going in terms of the stratified patient populations and how we start thinking about those patient populations to get us to different response markers.
One final comment. Comparing the oncology to the neuroscience, you could argue that xenograft models aren't that good for predictive in oncology, but they do provide some sort of guide for advancing to the clinic. And what we're very eager to see come out of this is fundamental biology that leads to more predictive models with higher degree or higher probability of success heading towards the clinic. That's really critical.
Question? Okay.
Thank you. Kind of a practical question. With a consortium such as the one that you're involved in.
Sorry, would you speak up a little bit?
Still more?
Yeah, a little
okay.
bit, thank you.
I've been accused of speaking too loudly. So a practical consideration for a consortium such as this, where you have 7 companies and probably universities and research institutes collaborating on sharing ideas, data, et cetera. Presumably there's going to be some intellectual property that will be born out of this collaboration. And how are you going to handle that from a consortium perspective as to ownership and sharing of rights, et cetera, et cetera?
Anyone want to comment on how we're thinking about that?
Well, it's my understanding is it's entirely pre-competitive. So what we'll have access to all of the research that comes out of the consortium activities, and we're free to advance our programs based on that information. Importantly, if there happens to be a proposal or an interest area that isn't funded, we have the opportunity, if we're interested, to independently pursue that with the investigators. So at AbbVie, we're comfortable working in the pre-competitive space like that, and then we're also comfortable competing when it comes to developing the drugs. And that's where the IP comes in.
And the PIs and their teams will be able to publish the results. The consortium members are comfortable with that. I think their feeling is that there will be enough benefit from them having seen this work early on. By the time it's out in the public domain, that the sponsors will have derived benefits from their involvement.
The discussion focused mostly on academia and medium-sized to large pharma companies within the consortium.
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear very well.
The question is, can small companies that create innovation be part of the consortium?
The way that we have structured the consortium at the moment, and you are very right in observing that these are larger companies who are making a financial contribution and sharing the cost. And the agreement is that over time, I think that the charter members are interested in, as the work is moving along, in understanding how smaller companies could partner with them. Some of the work I actually believe that the consortium members anticipate taking on may require the involvement of CROs or other supporting partners in the process. So over time, I think we all anticipate that there would certainly be the potential for the involvement of other participants, but in the interest of keeping it initially small and focused, and with organizations who were in a position to put some significant financial resources behind the work, this was the decision that we made.
Yeah, I mean, we actually have an example where we were in discussions with a local venture company who has a very early asset, but which had not actually gone and met the other folks that we learned about. We brokered a conversation between that academic group and that small company, and there's an ongoing discussion with ourselves. So there is an ecosystem, I guess is the word that I would use, in the greater Massachusetts, Boston, Cambridge area, and not just on small molecules, but even around biomarker techniques and biologics processing, and once again, I think that is another advantage of participating.
And I think, as you can hear, given the objectives of the sponsors, there is every need and interest and intent to work with, partner with all the members of the ecosystem or the supporting community to keep things moving forward. Other questions? Don't be shy. Any other questions about work that's going on or the intent of the consortium?
You mentioned the member companies of the consortium actually putting in financial resources, and presumably the Mass Life Science Center through the state of Massachusetts. And now, this is totally funded by the companies. Has the federal government expressed any interest through partnering in these sorts of consortiums? Something that you might consider in the future?
So I will answer initially, but welcome the thoughts. The answer is that the role that the Life Sciences Center is playing is that we are staffing the initiative so that the dollars that the consortium members are contributing can go to the research and not to the administration of this initiative. We're obviously using our convening, our reach to make sure that all of the researchers around the Commonwealth who are doing interesting work that they think would be of interest to the consortium are aware of this and understand, respond to the calls for proposals. And we will actually then sort of administer, oversee, if you will, the grants. So that we are really trying to let the consortium lay off on the center the administrative issues, challenges, responsibilities, so that they can really focus on the work that is being done at hand. In answer to your second question, we got a call the day after this consortium was announced at BIO last year from the government. Extremely impressed and pleased to hear that these large companies had agreed to come together and work together in a novel way. And we got a call just the other day from the Office of Science and Technology Policy at the White House to see whether or not the members of the consortium would be interested as a group in engaging with the BRAIN initiative. So we actually quickly polled all of the sponsors, and there was interest in that. And so our real hope is one. I hope that you can see that this was a big step, and this is, I think, some very important and significant decision making on the part of these companies to come together and work in this way. And so, speaking on behalf of the center, I think we're really thrilled to see that their efforts and their willingness have been recognized and will possibly be leveraged as a focal point for other activities and initiatives. So we were very pleased. And so we will now use ideas or suggestions from the consortium members and feed them back to OSTP. And our hope is that absolutely the consortium will be drawn upon to participate in some way in this new federal initiative. We've also gotten some inquiries from NINDS, so people are very well aware of these companies, to their credit. I'm thrilled to see them getting this acknowledgement for this.
Yeah, and I would just add, well, that I think I've already expressed how supportive I am of this consortium. So personally, I'm in favour of expanding it wherever we can, looking into the future. I think it's important to start things with a smaller group to get the ball rolling. But I'm all for getting more and more companies, both large, medium and smaller companies, to join this as a consortium. I think there are major challenges that face all of us, and I think we're only going to actually embrace these challenges if we work together. And I would just, as a comment from the academic point of view and government funding, I would say, in a way, I'm wondering, and I know maybe some of you have an opinion on this, but I'm wondering whether biopharma are actually more advanced in the thinking of just the idea of having to work together pre-competitively than maybe some academic organizations. And I'm wondering whether we should be trying to drive rewards for academic centers that very clearly work together, maybe in terms of special granting system, I don't know.
Once again, mirroring the oncology example, right, where some of the SAGE databases in terms of some of those mutation analysis that are all out there as far as funding is concerned. I do know that the National Institute of Mental Health actually is in the process of actually looking at one of the potential proposals and a submission to the RDocs granting facility, which is a whole new, really, it's an academic research center focused work, but with a repurposed molecule that's come out of the consortium.
I think we have time for one more question. I'm going to invite all of you to please stay for just a few more minutes, because we're going to be very quickly transitioning to our party here at the Massachusetts Pavilion. So there'll be lots of seafood treats, Sam Adams beer, some of the best of the cuisine and beverage from Massachusetts. So we hope that you'll stay and join us for that.
So I wasn't here when it started. So is there going to be a request for proposal based on academic investigators within Massachusetts to put together proposals focused on neuroscience, they're going to be reviewed by the members of the consortium, and then money is going to be granted on an annual basis, or how's that going to work?
There was a call for proposals. The proposals were due in November. We were very excited. I think the consortium sponsors were excited. There were almost 100 proposals that were submitted in this first round. From academic and not-for-profits all across Massachusetts, and very well established as well as younger career scientists. And so I think this was very exciting to the consortium members. The consortium members met in Boston, discussed that we had sent them all of the proposals. They reviewed them along with their colleagues. They met. They winnowed down those that they wanted to then move into a second round for more detailed submissions, and they will be meeting in just about 2 or 3 weeks again to select the final project. So that's the process, but I would really love to, if some of the sponsors would like to comment at all on what you've thought about that process or the proposals that you saw. Any additional information would be great.
Really high quality, very high quality.
And they also spanned three important buckets, which is targets, preclinical models, and disease biology. This is really where we wanted to see it go. It's going in that direction, and we're very excited, very eager to see the outcome.
So the next steps will be that there will be discussion among the sponsors. They may go back to the proposing teams and request some very specific modifications. They may actually interface and collaboratively refine the final project. Then those projects will be launched. As I said, they are relatively shorter term. They're milestone driven. The sponsors will tranche the funding, if you will, and sort of decide which ones to continue based on what they're seeing at various points. And I know that everyone's intentions are to really try and work as closely as their time allows with these research teams. So we anticipate some real collaborative work, which will be a great learning experience for the PIs. Well, again, thank you very much for a great turnout at the end of the day. Thank you very much to the sponsors who were with us today. And again, I want to thank them not just for their time, but for their bravery and their creativity and their willingness to really try something different. I know they hope, and we certainly hope, that we'll be able to come back to you at Future Bios and report out on some really significant new ideas and prospective breakthroughs that have come as a result of this. I think certainly their courage and their creativity merits it, and I think patients certainly deserve that. So thanks so much again for being here with us today.